know what I was just doing there, but I mean,
You're doing the rabbit.
Yes, exactly. All you motorcycles get off. Damn! But we've got a crazy show.
It's a crazy.
Yes, it has been. I mean,
this past weekend, UFC 234.
Absolutely.
Gastelum. Yes. That was nice of putting it.
Everybody has any time. Yep.
Before first of all, get well soon, Robert. Really feel for you. A hernia, serious operation. That thing had burst in the middle of the fight. You probably wouldn't be here with us.
Right.
Especially dealing with Gastelum back infection, which I don't know how the UFC or the Nation of Australia. That was just happening.
One of the most dangerous things. So it's kind of crazy. First off, to lose a fight. I mean, I think the closest that we came to losing a main title fight in recent history was John Jones and Anderson Silva is getting it. Inside your
To simplify it, it's as if you see those hot dogs and you start painting together on top. All right in the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that being said, I think so. I think you may be right. But yeah, I mean, so going from the top to the bottom, it's kind of crazy to hear people kind of literally shit on him for pulling out, you know. This is in his home country of Australia. It was not going to happen. Right, absolutely. You know,
Either way, someone was going to have to pull out, whether it was
yes!
And then everybody else.
Right, absolutely. But and then Gastelum's take on it, you know, carrying around the churches to UFC legacy. Yes, absolutely. Geez, this thing has literally become the UFC's equivalent in its tenure of the WWE. Anytime anybody touches it, I mean, they turn to stop. It's crazy. So, you know, the first person that got it. Right, exactly. So Henry Cejudo.
Henry Cejudo with the belt killed the entire
featherweight division, absolutely.
Not that Henry killed it, but the division is on his last leg.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Then you had essentially, the fight that had so much to it, you know. And then the next person is Gastelum, a guy who's arguable. It's definitely arguable. I mean, again, so my base fight for anybody is CSF. And Mike Belkan, I mean, was surgical in the sense that he didn't call it. I mean, Richard Roy got knocked several times. I mean, the first time, within the first seconds of the fight, you know, he got dropped, but he recovered. You know, and I want to say that should be the benchmark if you're in any athletic condition or what have you. That should be the benchmark for any referee training seminar, you know, amateur or pro. Right, absolutely. But going back to Kassim, I just it's a weird stats these days because a lot of people.
He's also someone that's writing about how he made several
Right,
very challenging.
writing about the one time it's not the greatest thing in the world to declare yourself
Yes, absolutely. So
Very professional. You know what I mean?
Well, I have to ask you guys just before we move on to the next fight. Does it seem that too many of the UFC fighters are professional wrestling? Dillashaw came out, but Dillashaw came out in a sense trying to wear that 1970s fur coat and jackets, looking like a
Yes, we got
70s
us.
pimp.
Sorry,
You know.
we had the music playing over you talking this whole time. I'm sorry. So you might want to talk to your.
We're going to talk to our producer.
Okay, yes.
The Polynesian panda apparently is missing a few things, like his marbles.
there you go.
He's going to die after the show.
Well, at least we hope you enjoy our theme music as
right.
we continue on with the first 7 minutes of the show.
enjoy
Absolutely.
our second pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So you were saying,
But I was saying the fact that, Dillashaw came out looking like a 70s blaxploitation film villain.
yeah, absolutely, Jim Brown.
Yeah, exactly. McGregor was trying to perfect his Ric Flair impression.
Absolutely.
Gaslam's trying to do his Telly Blanchard
Yes.
impression.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's coming across as like a very strange version of UFC Attitude Era 2019.
Yes,
know.
absolutely. I mean, shout out to
It's all anti-heroes at this point.
shout out to Rafa Esparza from Verbal Tap Podcast and the Grappling
Rafa
Hour
homie.
because he coined a couple of years ago WWE BJJ
Mm-hmm.
right around WrestleMania week or month, and it's literally become UFC WWE.
Right, that's what we started calling it last year was UFC WWE
Right,
at
I
private
mean,
events.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad
And not a
thing.
knock on the UFC.
No,
it's
no.
just that when an entertainment agency buys out the largest mixed martial arts organization in the world, there's going to have that entertainment influence coming in. So
Yeah,
you expect a bit of that, but it's just strange that everybody's turning into the anti-hero
Right.
in this situation.
Well, here's the thing. Over the course of all sports, right, and where any sport has crossed the pop culture lexicon, especially in North America, what basically happens is those said people have had a strong influence with wrestling of some sort.
Sure.
Regis Philbin, I mean, Regis
Liberace.
Philbin, right, absolutely. Liberace. We're going back to, a young Cassius Clay was watching pro wrestling, before he ever knew boxing, before he ever stepped into a gym, So, what's his it? The gentleman from he used to be from the Seahawks, Richard Sherman or what have you.
Yeah.
He's cutting pro wrestling promos, when they're winning the Super Bowl, So, I think it's a fair comparison to say that everything is pro wrestling.
Well, professional wrestling has influenced mixed martial arts. There's no doubt
No
about
doubt
it.
about it.
Because the original catch wrestling was a sense a grappling tournament that was a legit show till the carnies got involved, and then it became a carnival circuit show to make sure that all your athletes were healthy.
Right.
We understand that, and we're not saying that that's what mixed martial arts is becoming, but the image that's being presented is this very strange late 90s anti-hero WWE, WWF attitude era.
No, absolutely. But, again, so that's also putting the UFC in a sort of echelon in the sense that you're looking to the UFC as being the bastion and the safeguard for MMA history as a whole. And, again, by not really finding anybody to fight Cyborg, getting rid of the flyweight division. Dana White, they push Francis Ngannou to the moon, and he loses to Stipe, arguably the most decorated heavyweight in MMA history.
Who is also the most neglected heavyweight in MMA history.
Absolutely. So you're saying that, okay, you're basically the safeguard. If there's a Hall of Fame, that is the preeminent one. But again, they're an entertainment entity, you know, a la NASCAR and
Yeah.
a la Monster Jam, you know, and you know, right now Colby Covington don't agree with the guy, don't necessarily like the guy, but with that being said,
Is doing his best Conor McGregor impression.
right, absolutely. I mean, dare I say he's actually even doing
And Kobe's going to call me fat and out of shape and whatever else
Yeah.
if he ever sees this. It's okay.
yeah,
But,
but I mean,
That makes 3 of us. Don't worry.
yeah, no worries. I mean, actually, I mean, to your point, I think he's actually doing like 1982 Dr. D. David Schultz AWA. So with that
Okay.
being said, with that all being said, you know, you have to convert. You have to be entertaining for the people, right? And when you, I mean, Dana White, the president. I mean, when have you ever seen, you know, Roger Goodell or whatever head of a particular organization openly call out their fighters? And again, you know, it's one thing to demean a team or an owner or what have you, but essentially these guys, right? They're independent contractor, a la wrestling, right? And
1099s.
right. I
Get
mean,
ready to do your taxes. folks.
Yikes.
yeah, absolutely. But do you mean Uriah Scheister's going to come to my door? Holy crap! Bringing his kid Bray Wyatt in tow? Oh, geez, I don't
All
want to
the
get
MMA
into
fans
that.
are getting mad at us for doing all these pro wrestling references.
Yeah. But so it's a weird place because again, you have to sell tickets, right? You have to sell
Absolutely.
tickets. That's
No, I mean, even Ali understood that. Ali had to sell tickets, and you know he played the heel very well. But it wasn't every boxer coming out in that era, you know, trying to be Muhammad Ali. You know, Mike Tyson wasn't trying to be Muhammad Ali. Mike Tyson was basically George Foreman Jr. in a sense. You know,
Absolutely.
coming out and just being a destroyer and leaving the ring. You know, we had multiple personalities in MMA. I remember when Kimo would come out carrying a giant
something else,
giant
right?
cross. Oh my gosh!
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Mark Kerr, the smashing machine.
Yeah.
And you know, we love you, Mark. You know,
Mark is tremendous.
yes.
Yes.
You know, and Don Fry and Boss Rutan and all these guys had personality.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
And now it just seems everybody is trying to have the same personality because it's like, well, it worked for Conor. Is it going to work for me?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it's a matter of a bare naked ladies song. You know, it's all been done before, right?
Right.
So, I mean, Conor doing it for MMA. You know, essentially, nobody knew that it was pro wrestling because most MMA fans don't necessarily like pro wrestling, or
Right.
you know, they don't want to watch it. So that's cool. But you know, Jim Cornette basically makes a reference. If you haven't seen it yet, it's new to you.
Right.
And that's essentially what Conor did. You know, and kudos to Conor. But
Well, we were there at the
100
press
million
conference
kudos.
with Jones.
Oh.
With Jones and Cormier the first time
Yeah,
before
yeah.
the fight got called, and we saw Conor develop his heel persona.
right, absolutely. And it's not something that you know came overnight for him,
No.
and that's what
We
lot
watched
of
them build it. It took him 6 months to figure out how to be Ric Flair.
Right, absolutely. But I mean, that's it. So it's a weird place that we're kind of in. That you know, again, Colby Covington is in talks of suing the UFC because he said he was promised a title shot and didn't do it. And that's one of the kind of realities of where we are at in the climate of the UFC and
Right.
its new ownership. Is here's a guy that kind of did the same thing that Conor did, right, to a different degree.
Right.
And now he finds himself outside of the title picture. You know, you've got Tony Ferguson. Again, a lot of people don't necessarily jibe with Tony's personality. I love it. He's a tremendous guy.
But do we care about Tony's personality as much as we care about Tony's win-loss record? Tony's the champion.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
We care that Ferguson's the champion because Ferguson is the best guy in the division right now. The belt is his, period.
He earned it.
But he was
Yeah,
the guy who essentially got stripped for doing a UFC obligated, you know, press,
Yeah.
you know, thing. So it's a weird time, you know, and especially now with the middleweight division, right?
Yeah.
So we're in a crazy precarious time, you know, and a lot of people will talk about like Anderson Silva being the greatest of all time or whatever. He was the greatest of his era.
Right.
But the thing about it is, you know, once that belt dropped off his waist, it was almost like Ronda Rousey. That belt essentially hot potatoed
Yeah.
all over the
There
place.
hasn't been a
And
dominant champion.
yeah,
since.
absolutely. So with that being said,
But that leads us
that's
into the Anderson Silva Israel
Adesanya, yeah,
the
thank
style
you,
bender.
Adesanya, because sorry Israel, I have trouble pronouncing your name sometimes. You know, with a 3-round decision.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, I mean,
It's a 2-round fight, really, because the last round, I don't know that they were doing anything other than
it
sparring.
was just a respect, you know?
But yeah,
I get it, but it wasn't trying to put someone out. They weren't seeking a finish.
no, not in that regard. But it was still an interesting fight because everyone was saying Israel is the next Anderson. And Israel didn't like that because Israel wants to be the first Israel. And we completely
Absolutely.
understand that. You want to be your own man. You don't want to be compared to the next guy. So you had to take this fight. So it was going to be win or lose. I mean, Anderson either solidified his legacy and buries Israel, or Israel wins the fight and moves on to the next level, beating the guy that he's been compared to for the past year.
Sure.
And he's only been fighting professionally for a year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to have that caliber of a fighter against you,
Huge.
and you've already earned the respect of him and everybody else in the industry, hopefully Israel's going to have a long, healthy career and goes all the way to the middleweight title.
Wherever the middleweight title finds itself. Because,
Right.
again, going back to the debacle that was the Robert Whittaker Gastelum deal, so where's the middleweight title? Essentially, this was supposed to be a title fight between the number one contender and its champion, a champion that he's
They'll
been
just have to
injured.
revisit the fight. That's the only thing they can do
They have
because
to.
it's the number
They
one,
have
number
to.
two guy, and both of them were seriously injured.
Right.
Staph infection and a hernia. No one was like backed out. No one pissed hot. None of that. So if USADA, VADA, and USDA and whoever else is testing whatever,
All the governing factions,
exactly.
absolutely.
They've all passed the test. So
Absolutely.
we just got to put them in another title fight. Unfortunately, it has to be sooner rather than later, and I'd say late summer at the earliest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get them healthy, put them back in.
But
Absolutely.
I don't.
We all want to see it.
We all want to see it, but
I just feel bad for the Australian fans
absolutely
Yeah.
because
because
it might end up in Vegas or New York or something.
Yeah.
right,
They'll
and they were
never get
robbed of a
something.
title fight with
Yep.
their literally
Well,
homegrown
they're
talent.
not necessarily robbed of the title fight. I mean, it's an unfortunate circumstance. If they were robbed of the title fight, it would have been that Whittaker got popped for PEDs. That would have been robbing the audience
True.
of the title fight.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a shame on him. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not the case. Thank
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, and I'm happy the one time that everybody's actually clean, they're still dirty with injuries, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Things happen.
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, but
It's the hurt business, remember.
It really
People
is,
get
yeah.
hurt.
No, absolutely. But again, so where it is after a decent performance. Well, one thing that we learned from the Stylebender Anderson Silva fight was, first off, Anderson Silva is still Anderson Silva.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. Anybody?
He's
Let
still
me
the
emphasize
showman.
something that he really looked like himself.
Right,
Yes.
absolutely.
Hasn't looked like himself in a few fights.
No,
But
not
he
at all.
performed like I wanted to see Anderson Silva
Right.
perform.
Dodging those
Right.
kicks,
Right.
I mean, even Israel's looking at him and going, just so close. And
Little
it was like,
bit, man.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely. But I mean, after that horrible freak injury, the Chris Weidman fight, which again, I'm not a fan of Weidman because how do you train and check kicks knowing that your opponent is gonna,
you
like
don't.
that just to me that's dirty.
Well, you're a Muay Thai guy anyway, so
Right. Well, that's just like, I'm training in eye pokes because
Right.
I know this guy needs to see
Eventually.
me to punch me.
Eventually, right?
Right, absolutely. So with that being said, Anderson Silva really lost his mojo in that fight. I mean, the next couple fights, he seemed really hesitant to throw kicks, which at times, would have been his bread and butter. One would argue, So
But Anderson's in his mid-40s. He has nothing to... Like Fedor Emelianenko, he's solidified his position in the world
You
of
never
MMA.
take it away.
Absolutely.
You can't take anything away from Anderson Silva.
No.
You can't take away anything
From Fedor.
Demetrius Johnson. You can't
Oh.
take anything away from Fedor. Well, the only thing you can take away from Demetrius Johnson, unfortunately, is the featherweight division in the UFC.
That's right.
jeez, yeah,
Well
don't
said.
get me started.
Right.
But yeah, it's so crazy where we are because again, to revisit the Whittaker
Debacle.
Whittaker Gastelum fight. Okay, well that means then DC and Stipe should happen again. That means Tony Ferguson and Khabib. That should have happened, right?
Right.
But it hasn't. So I don't have faith enough to see what's going to happen there. One, I don't think that fight is going to happen the way that we want it to. And then where does Stylebender go? After an impressive performance over one of the arguably
He's going to
greatest.
be a gatekeeper for a little while. He's still young. I don't want to see what happened to him happen to Brian, or what happened to Brian Ortega happen to him.
Yeah.
You can't put him in the title fight
Not right
too
away.
soon. I wish they had given Brian 2 more fights beforehand. And I think in two or three fights, Brian will be the world champion.
all heart, stuck it out, but they really threw him early. And Adesanya, I think he's a great fighter. I don't think it was that fabulous of a win. I think it was close.
It was
No,
close.
It was a very close fight.
But
but it's still the young lion
Yeah.
trying to become the alpha.
Gotcha.
You know, yeah, it actually reminded me of a better version, albeit, but a Nature
If you
Boy.
say Lion King,
No, I was going to say Nature Boy Buddy Rogers versus Nature Boy Ric
Ric
Flair.
Flair.
Gotcha,
Gotcha.
gotcha.
Because that did happen in '79 in the Mid-Atlantic territory, where obviously, Buddy Rogers was way past his prime, had a heart attack, air quotes here, but it happened.
Right.
That is one thing that you could go like, hey, feather in the cap. There is the new Nature Boy, right? So again,
So Israel's the new Spider.
one would make an argument.
Okay.
Absolutely, I think that
Only
argument.
legitimately earned. Not
Yeah, absolutely,
bestowed upon.
right. But I mean,
Not
this
just saying that Ric Flair didn't earn the title of Nature Boy. It's just that
it's
this
it's
was an
that
actual
extra
shoot.
caveat. It's almost like the $1 Million Championship. There is little diamonds in the back of it because the rest of it was cubic zirconia. So if anybody asks if there's no real diamonds in it,
Right.
guess what? He can say yes, there's real diamonds because they were in the back.
Well,
right?
Let's jump to the women's fight. Nadia Kassim versus Montana De La Rosa.
I like
second
Montana,
round
dude. She's
submission.
amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, she moved to 10-4, and
Yep.
she gave Nadia her first loss.
Yep, and she came out of the Ultimate Fighter too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I was
absolutely.
watching that. She had a different last name, so I know she got married or something.
Right,
so,
absolutely.
right. But
Was Stewart or
Montana's
something.
dominance in that fight in jiu-jitsu, Jesus.
Yeah, it's so scary, and especially what happened with the what was her name? The
Kasem?
King of the Cage, the flyweight champion, or what division? Strawweight? Was it strawweight?
Was it strawweight?
I don't
Yeah,
recall.
I don't remember.
but
You
it
guys,
was,
you're changing promotions on me. I'm
Yeah.
on UFC at the moment.
That was the
I'm a one-speed guy.
Ultimate. That was the Ultimate Fighter.
He's still in first gear.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's true.
The Ultimate Fighter
Neutral.
season where they crowned a champion, and
Okay.
I think, gosh, man, I can't.
It's all right.
I'm blanking on it, but
It's
Well,
all right.
Carla
it's-
Esparza was on there, right?
Yeah.
No.
No, wait.
No, that was
That was a different one?
No, that was she relinquished her title because she had to fight Ioana.
Okay.
And then that was the one where, gosh, I can't even remember who the champion is. I want to say it was Ioana and Valentina Shevchenko.
That's
So
it. That's it.
Yeah,
That's what
exactly.
you're thinking.
So so with Montana De La Rosa, it's awesome because she was a dark horse in that Ultimate Fighter season. So to see her have done better than the
Developed.
champion,
She's developed.
right? Absolutely, that's a cool thing, and it shows that show is not a dead entity like most people think. So
No, I still love it.
I love it.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll never not love it.
Well, let's switch gears real quick. We've been talking about professional wrestling, and there is a big professional wrestling story out there with All Elite Wrestling. Yeah. We're waiting for Robert to come back because he's had a quick family situation that
We're
he's gotta take care
producerless.
of.
Yes.
So we'll be talking about AEW, All Elite Wrestling, run by Cody and Brandy Rhodes, so we
Yeah.
don't deal with the copyright infringement
That's right.
from World Wrestling Entertainment. And the big announcement of Dave Bautista probably being involved with them.
Right
Yeah,
on.
that's a crazy one. So obviously on Instagram, Chris Jericho basically alluded to. Well, it wasn't an illusion. He was talking with Dave Bautista. Drax the Destroyer, the henchman in one of the James Bond movies, right? And a former multiple-time WWE champion.
And MMA fighter, don't forget. He's
why
got his
not?
career
Yeah,
later
Just
on.
because the crossover.
Yeah. So it looks like he wants one more run, and it looks like it's going to happen outside of the WWE if that picture is to generate buzz to see. Now, that I'm hoping happens because, I mean, Dave Bautista deserves one more run, one. Two, the fact that the headline of Jericho and Omega 2, the Omega signing officially with AEW, that's a crazy deal to be in, but it didn't necessarily set the world on fire.
Right.
So obviously the event, as of the time we're talking, has sold out the MGM Grand. So that's awesome.
All in too, double or nothing.
Double or nothing. So that's awesome to see that, whether it be pro wrestling
But
or
that's
MMA,
still a big deal that pre-sale tickets sold
Sold out.
out instantaneously.
Right, absolutely. And again, it's a good sign as far as the health and wellness of whether it be pro wrestling or MMA. For these guys and girls who basically train their asses off to be able to be paid to ply their trade and have bargaining power to essentially go in between wherever they see fit.
Right.
Yeah. No, you said it right.
And now, let's move on to this weekend because we have Bellator 215 and 216. And on the 215 card, we spoke with Amanda Bell, the Ladykiller.
That's huge, bro.
Oh, yeah. She's 5-5. She's taking on Amber LeBrock, who's 3-2.
Yep.
Amanda's from Oakland, now living in Portland, and Amber is still in the Bay Area. They're going to be opening. Well, they're going to be in the Bellator card, and it's going to be a big thing for everybody, especially women's MMA.
Absolutely.
In the featherweight division. Amber is 5 feet 11 inches tall, and Amanda's 5'8", and she's not used to being the shorter fighter. Robert, could you play the clip 1?
They both tower over me, I'll say that much.
All 5 feet 3 inches of you.
That's right. 5 feet of testosterone sitting right here.
Sparring and training with a lot of fighting and sparring and training with a lot of the taller guys that are in my gym and working on those types of things. Because oddly enough, I'm usually used to being the one, depending on if the fighter's a lot taller than me. I usually am used to being the one who's got a longer reach. For somebody my height, I have actually a really long reach for my height. So it's been a lot. That part has definitely been a focus of the camp, obviously, because of the difference between us. So we're working all of our angles like we always do, and just hoping to take this fight, take control of this fight wherever it winds up, on the ground, on the feet. We're hoping to dominate.
That was Amanda telling us about her training strategy for her much taller opponent. It's definitely going to be an interesting fight for her. I know she's had some personal issues that she's been dealing with so close to the fight that I don't want to mention because even though we discussed it, I don't think it's my place to put that out there for her. And I want to respect Amanda's privacy, even though we did discuss it. But Amanda is a very tough fighter. She's 5-5. They both fought in Invicta.
Invicta's coming up with so many new competitors for UFC.
Invicta,
it's a feeding ground.
Oh yeah, and it's feeding the
Bellator.
featherweight division at Bellator.
Bellator too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The two biggest promotions in the country.
Absolutely.
And, there's nothing better than an Invicta fight. If you ever get a chance to go see Invicta live, please do. I've never been to a bad Invicta card ever.
The two ladies, though, what stylistically is different about them?
They're both taller. Well, they're both distance fighters. Amanda started off as a karate fighter, and she's transitioned into grappling. She's been focusing on her grappling a lot, and it seems that it's interesting with mixed martial arts when people come from a specific style.
Yeah.
So grapplers love to try to transition into becoming strikers, and strikers love to transition into becoming grapplers.
Yeah.
In essence, some of them forget their roots, which has been a huge problem, I think.
Yeah, don't ever do that.
I thought that was a problem
Not
for
if
Rousey.
you're dominant in it, right?
And I thought that was a huge problem for Rousey. I think that's going to be an eventual problem for Kayla Harrison.
Sure.
But I would love to see...
Hopefully not. But
hopefully
yes.
not. But I would love to see Amanda stay with Bellator, because Bellator also has a kickboxing division.
Yeah.
And at some point do a crossover and do one of their kickboxing shows at some point,
That
or
would
do
be
some
cool.
grappling tournaments as well.
And with that karate background, you look at somebody like Leo Machida that approaches mixed martial arts with a style that's so different and a stance that's so different.
Right,
And he did
absolutely.
not forget that. It's embedded in him. It is with his dad being, one of his biggest
Absolutely.
coaches.
Right,
So-
absolutely.
He was a karate fighter. He
Yeah.
knew jiu-jitsu. He knew wrestling. He understands
That's right.
grappling. But he's a stand-up guy.
And he approaches
And
it that way.
Always does. And he's in and out like a karate guy. And
Wow,
it's
he's
hard to fight
amazing.
those karate guys in that aspect. And people don't realize that karate still holds a huge value to mixed martial arts. Excuse me. Benson Henderson, Taekwondo fighter.
Absolutely.
His kicks are still Taekwondo.
Absolutely.
He's still a great striker. He's
Wonder Boy.
Yeah.
Wonder Boy.
Wonder Boy
Wonder
Thompson.
Boy Jr.
Yeah,
come
absolutely.
on top of it.
Yeah,
you know?
so it's crazy because that has kind of fallen by the wayside in terms of karate, in terms of its relevance, and I don't know if it. So I mean, there was a generation raised on Bruce Lee, and then later like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and everybody wanted to do karate. Right?
You're talking about us?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So, and then it transitioned out. I mean, the UFC, and what Hoist Gracie did.
Right, but then
everybody was
don't
just-
forget Maurice Smith brought in Muay Thai, and everyone wanted to do
do
stand-up.
that, right? Exactly. So it goes in.
So-
I mean, the early precursor to our current state of MMA went through transitions of like,
Right.
oh, that's the new style, that's the best style. I am not a fan of the proponent that this style is going to be the most dominant in the sport. I think of how well you could meld 1 to 2 to 3 different styles. That's it. You don't have to be super professional in it, but if you are a striker but you could stop takedowns, there you go. That's your bread and butter, and that can lead you to a title shot in any promotion in the world, essentially.
Look at
male or
Joanna.
female.
Joanna was dominant so long with laser precision in her striking. Had no ground game to speak of.
Absolutely.
But could get back to her feet in an instant. So she was amazing. And, it had a long run.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Paige exposed that.
Yeah.
But what people haven't realized is that MMA has become its own style.
It is. And there's
So-
a generation of people that only know MMA.
Right. And that are only training in MMA.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a detriment
Right.
when the stylists come in
Yes.
and
Yeah.
realize that there's more to more than a double leg takedown, more than an arm bar, a real naked choke,
Yeah.
and checking kicks.
Sure.
Yeah. Or a fedor overhand right.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, but there you go. So it's gonna, when all of the stylists come in and, run roughshod over the folks that are essentially just MMA people. We're kind of
Yeah.
seeing it to an extent with like a Paige Van Zandt or Sage Northcutt, who have only. Sage Northcutt, that's another karate guy, but essentially who have just been able to train in MMA. So with that being said, here is a stylist going to come in, and then jiu-jitsu will go through a huge resurgence again, and then karate is going to come in because another Wonder Boy-esque,
That's
Leona-
true. As we get superheroes in the sport, people do have a tendency to want to be like them.
Absolutely.
And train in that fashion.
Yeah, so it's
know?
going to be cool.
And I think judo kind of takes the backside of it, but it really is a dominant skill.
Yeah,
Well-
and Sambo as well, as you see with Fedor.
That's true. That's
Well,
true.
Bringing up judo, I recently went back to judo. I haven't trained in several years and well over a decade and a half.
Wow.
And I started training at Shenchi Judo over in Costa Mesa.
I'm excited for you, brother.
It's a lot of fun going home, man. But that first somersault was terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There it is.
There we go.
There you go.
That was Monday night. I
There it
gotta
is.
make that brown belt go black.
The editor-in-chief in the house.
Yeah, we got to make the waistline go down. We got to make that belt go black.
No
There you
joke,
go.
dude.
So that was Monday night. Having a good time, rolling. Took about 5 or 6, maybe 7 rolls to finally get the rhythm back. But it'll be. I think I'll be up to par again, probably in about 6 months.
That's cool. That's
Ooh.
good.
My stamina's a lot better than I actually expected, so I'm happy with that.
Right
There
on,
you
man.
go, man.
You know?
Means you're not
Well,
that
the
old,
Iron
man.
Man Robert Samo right here.
Well, the thing is, we're talking about MMA. We're talking about professional wrestling. We're talking about all sorts of combat sports.
Yep.
I can't be the fat ass sitting there and going, I used to do when I am still able to do it. So I got to get off my butt and put my money
So
where my
we
mouth
can be the
is.
fat asses.
I'm a
Dono.
brown belt
Hell
in
yes.
jiu-jitsu. Got
I know.
3 stripes. What about you, Mr. Woods? What do you got?
I'm a black belt in shit jitsu.
Shit-jitsu?
Basically, there's jujitsu and everybody's doing
I know
it
you
here,
got
and
some
I'm
kind
over
of
here
belt.
like.
Where do you train? You have some kind of belt.
JCPenney,
Yeah, I do have.
$3.95.
I have a replica NWA 10 pounds of gold and a replica WWE World Heavyweight title. So there's that, signed by Vince McMahon. So
Interestingly
bam.
enough, I rolled with you at Black House
Right.
Yeah,
before we were
home.
homies.
Yeah, absolutely. That's we rolled together and then we became homies.
We rolled the hell out of there.
You're damn right. And didn't we? Oh wait, I missed the chili cheese fries.
We went
after.
to Tam's Burgers because I think that was right when.
Yeah, right.
it.
Like a block away, not even
Yeah,
at
yeah,
the end of the block.
exactly.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
But you're pretty far, you're not that far away from getting your black in BJJ, so
The only thing really stopping me is a neck injury. So
Yeah.
once I get some things squared away and I'm training harder again, it's one of those things. But man, I tell you,
mine were some knee injuries. So
I
know what you're
never
talking about.
ever got
Although yours
stopped
is
in
worse.
my tracks ever by any injury, and the mentality, and this is good for the show, the mentality in jiu-jitsu and MMA is always to work through your injuries. Had I rested, had I actually sought some help and not pushed through it, I would have been okay, I think, to at least continue. I had worked myself so much into a further injury from continuing my training while I was injured and suffering through the pain, and before you knew it, I had 3 blown discs, and they wanted to do surgery, and I'd never be able to look left, and I'd be stuck in one position. No jiu-jitsu ever again, much less boxing or Muay Thai or anything else. So, yes, rest and seek help. Get a professional opinion. If you've been in the game for years and years and years, be smart because your body is changing. I thought I could just push through it, and
That's what I did with my knees for wrestling and my ankles
Yeah,
and everything
we all
else.
do
And
it, right?
I'm lucky I could still walk. I dropped 60 pounds, and now here I am, you know, stepping back onto the mat going,
Good.
Hey, if my joints are healthy enough for me to do judo, let's get back on there and do it.
Right on.
And another thing about the style thing, I think that there's going to be the tree between judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu had forked at one point.
Right, absolutely.
But at some point, with all the cross-training going back, I see the branches reconnecting. Because judo has a far better top game and a far better throwing game and getting you to the ground than jiu-jitsu does, and jiu-jitsu has a far better newaza than judo does, because a lot of judokas don't train newaza as much as they should.
And they need each other.
Right.
You don't have jiu-jitsu if you can't get someone to the ground.
Right.
So forget it. Forget about it.
You guys are. I mean, I'm sitting in awe because I started judo
we're
at
gonna
7.
be dropping weight, and we're gonna get Adam fat. So
There you
that's
go.
the goal.
I think that's. I guess
That's
it
my
might be the
personal
stuffed
goal.
turkey. But no, I mean, I did judo when I was like 7 because that was the closest thing to pro wrestling in NorCal, in Marin County. Shout out to San Rafael. But
That-
Is
That's
that
just-
where you were?
yeah, Marin
I thought you were
County.
straight up
And I
Inglewood.
Yeah, and then I got dropped on my head once because I didn't stretch, and I was like, "Fuck this!" Right? Even at 7, and then with the jiu-jitsu, like
That's because you loved wearing the gi instead of the singlet. That's why you went into jiu-jitsu instead of pro
Yeah,
or
there
into
you go.
collegiate wrestling.
And then here's my jiu-jitsu tie-in to your
He's
point,
packing.
Dondo.
He likes that singlet.
Have you ever gotten knee on belly by Savant, the Black Superman Young?
I got knee on belly by the Polynesian panda.
oh, that's pretty rough.
Right?
too.
You might
That's
you might
pretty
let a
rough.
1-footer out.
Yeah,
Right.
but I got knee on belly by I think Black Superman Savant Young and Herb Dean. I was like, fuck this.
You know what? Better
Yeah.
than neon crotch, so you're good to go.
Yeah, 10 points. Yes. Shout out to Blue Chew. I mean, what? Yeah, there you go. So, fuck, man. It's a crazy world. But stylistically, what do you think is a lost art? We'll start with you, Dondo,
Yeah,
and then
Dondo.
go to our.
That's actually a
illustrious
good question.
editor.
A lost art, Kung Fu.
Yes.
Right? When we're looking at Wing Chun and things like that, there were styles that were incorporated into other things, but we don't hear a lot about that.
Anderson Silva.
Yes.
Well, you're right.
Yeah.
Anderson
And
Silva is a
Silva.
Wing Chun
Right.
and capoeira
Capoeira is an interesting one for.
for girls.
Well,
I'm
dude,
I really like it. I really
Capoeira
love
is a
it.
gorgeous style, man.
It is. It is.
For competition, because you know how capoeira was disguised as a
Sure,
dance,
sure.
by the slaves in Brazil.
I
So-
did a couple years of it,
Yeah.
enticed by young ladies that were there, of course.
Right. Leave it to Dondo.
Isn't that what I do? I'll do
But-
yoga if I have to.
Right.
I'm the guy in the back of the room.
There you go. Farting away.
You got to see me in a pair of yoga pants.
But
Oh,
the
damn.
thing is that a lot of people forgot the viciousness of capoeira and only train it as a dance style rather than as a martial art.
Yeah, I think there are multiple styles like regional, and then there's one that comes from the original country, Angola. There's different styles, and just like every other martial art, there are people that stick to their roots, and that's really what you want to, in my opinion, stick to, right? Because then they're not bastardizing or turning something into a sport, because then you lose the essence. So with MMA, it really is important to have that fighting style.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got a clip for you over here.
I hope that's not of me, Robert.
Is the volume playing outward? Okay.
I'm pretty
Okay,
sure
good.
we can speak through it.
Yeah, you can speak right through it.
It sure is pretty. I don't know how practical.
No, but it looks great on camera. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
That's why when we were talking last week to Thomas Q. Jones and having John Lewis as the fight coordinator for their film, that they needed the realistic style of MMA because
Yeah.
you can't do all these flip kicks and everything else that look great in Tekken.
Yeah.
And
Fuck yeah, they
and
do.
Tekken 95.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. On the
2000,
Sega Saturn.
Exactly.
Fuck yeah.
Everything else that's coming out was,
Yeah, I got one thing to say about that fucking clip, man. Banana way, man. Because I saw Only the Strong once, and I was like, "That's the fucking Brazilian shit." That was long
Only
before I
the
ever
Strong
knew.
was one of the greatest
Capoeira-
martial arts movies
Yeah,
ever made.
Absolutely. And then my head got really fucked up because like the teacher ended up being like the fucking host of the Iron Chef, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" Mark
he is.
Dacascos, what's up, man?
Right.
But shout out to that guy. So
You got to pay the bills too.
Exactly.
yeah, fuck yeah, dude.
And
So
Iron
why
Chef
not?
pays a
come
hell
on,
of a
man.
lot more.
He
Damn
sits
right.
there. All he does is throw a karate chop, screaming "a la cuisine," and he's making more money than he ever did with the movie. So why
What's
not?
funny
Fuck
is
yeah.
all three of us know that very well.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yes.
Bunch of foodies.
Hell yes. Food. Damn
Yeah.
right.
Right?
So-
Foodies are people that are too poor to be gourmets.
There you go.
That's what.
For every
Absolutely.
dojo I've trained in, I know where the taqueria is right around the corner from.
10 points.
No two ways
Dondo.
about it.
Yeah, man. On record, the most kind of like underutilized method of MMA or discipline of MMA. So on record, yours is going to be?
I said Wing Chun because,
Wing Chun?
it was an early style, and I know those Chinese guys really studied movement of animals and incorporated things in fighting that they saw in nature. Do I think that it's relative today? Elements, maybe.
Right.
There
There's
you go.
some practicality issues with
Sure.
it because those martial arts competitions, like Long Beach karate tournament back in the day, where it was point sparring and then
Ed
Bruce
Parker.
Yes, Ed Parker. It's become so stylistic that it's almost become gymnastics with weaponry rather than
Yeah.
a weapons display.
Yes.
And I think that's become a problem with it. But karate combat is killing it with their karate style.
Kyokushin style, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they still
Absolutely.
strike hard.
I think Shotokan.
Yeah,
is the one
Shotokan, too. You're
that's
right.
underrated right now and underutilized.
And why would you say that, good sir?
Their striking power, their striking techniques, their straight punches are pretty phenomenal right there, and their leg kicks.
Damn.
Yeah.
No, I mean, a point can
I
be
think-
made for sure.
Yeah.
So what do you... Polynesian Panda.
Yes.
Savat.
Savat, French savat,
That's
Okay.
a dangerous style.
French foot fighting.
Right.
That's a style.
That's a
Yeah.
style.
That's true. A dangerous style.
Yeah, and more snappier kicks than Taekwondo.
Yeah, I
They got some serious stunners with those. Good call, Robert.
That's it.
Yeah.
What do they do in Fiji? Throw coconuts?
Fuck. No, we beat you with the fucking lolly, which is like a damn club this size, and we just bash it until you've
You
sound
hold
got
the
a
club the
flapjack.
size
Yeah,
of your
exactly.
dinger and
Yes,
you go after
exactly.
someone?
Fucking, what's it? Stevie Ray ass flapjack. That's what we do here. No, for me, and this might just be me and my family coming from a British Commonwealth, but I'm gonna say, catch motherfucking wrestling. That's it, dude.
I thought you were going to say cricket.
No, yeah.
I've never heard you curse this much
I
in
piss
all
him
the
off.
time that I've known you
I think
that
I
you
get
have in
under
the
his
past
skin.
45 minutes.
There you go. Keep it locked here. I'm just saying. But no, catch wrestling. I mean,
Okay.
obviously, the lineage, from the old school Wigan, school, Billy Riley, Billy Robinson, Carl Gotch,
Hackenschmidt.
Hackenschmidt. What Hackenschmidt and what is it? God, why am I blanking on the name? But it was like the first. I want to say like $1 million gate or at least like 6-figure gate.
That's a huge gate.
Hackenschmidt and Gotch. There you go. Hackenschmidt and Frank Gotch. That was the first.
A legitimate shoot fight.
Absolutely. And that's essentially the turning point from, where it became like a ardent sport to the professional wrestling that we know it now because, I mean, they literally toured the horn with Gotch and Hackenschmidt and all of the people that were kind of edging them out and whatever. And then after doing 3-hour grappling matches, they were they were killing the territory essentially. And they were like, hey, why don't you win this time? I win the next time. And guess what? Third time we'll have a rematch and we don't give a shit who wins.
Right.
Got it.
So essentially for me, catch wrestling. So it's awesome to see, gyms like CSW, to me, I think is the mecca of modern day catch wrestling. And shout out to Coach Ben Jones and our guest for the Gym Crashers, Nick Patea, who's a proud CSW graduate and disciple essentially. So obviously we've got UWFI with Josh Barnett.
Yeah.
He's trained not only guys like Victor Henry and Shohei Yamamoto, but also Shayna Baszler,
Right.
who's in the WWE. So
Legit.
again,
She's
catch
legit.
wrestling, man. That's what I would say. But
And don't forget, Sophia Deville fought for U of MMA
right,
beforehand.
absolutely,
so.
absolutely. But the catch-22, I just made a pun on myself. But the
You're quite
catch-22
punny.
of catch would be the fact that obviously there's a lot more neck cranks and what have you. So with that being said, the frequency of training, and I think that's where jiu-jitsu will always kind of have a leg up because it's a lot less. I mean, it's brutal on your body, but it's not as vicious as a neck crank all the time. You know.
Yeah. You can dictate pace in jiu-jitsu.
Right,
You can
absolutely.
dictate what position you or how you handle a position you're put into. There's a lot that you can do to control, right?
Right, absolutely.
And you pick your partners. I hate to say that. I mean, as you're further and further along
Right,
in
you
the game,
set
you got to be
traps.
smart, right?
You set traps, but I mean, there have been times over the course of history with catch wrestlers where, you know, it was like almost the first precursor to MMA math, where like a particular guy was more skilled and this other dude was just bowl over him because he was, you know, doing, what is it, the Ghana or whatever, the Gata, there you go, the old school Indian club method and whatever. And
I love that you're astute in all these different styles, you know, Silat and...
yeah, aside from this, I don't know why my wife married me, because like it's way too much. I should be in my parents' basement or something like that. So
because you're packing heat, we already know.
Exactly.
yeah, but anywho, I think catch wrestling. I mean, and anytime that, whether it be, you know, a pro wrestling commentary, you know, Jim Cornette. I mean, not Jim Cornette, but Jim Ross or Gorilla Monsoon would say, "Catch as catch can" style. I'd be like, oh my gosh, Doug Furness and Phil LaFon, holy shit, they're gonna be the next thing ever, because that's the real shit. So
Well, speaking of catch wrestling transitioning into professional wrestling,
Yes.
this week's movie pick comes
Yes.
out on Friday in LA and New York, and then next week in theaters nationwide, called Fighting with My Family, about WWE superstar Paige, who's played by Florence Pugh. Vince Vaughn, Nick Frost are in the movie. Leah Headey from Game of Thrones is also in the flick. It's a comedy based on the real-life situation of Suraya Knight, who becomes Paige in the WWE. Robert, can you cue up the trailer, please?
No, you bit off.
Zach, what the bloody hell do you think you're doing? You really want to choke her out in a lot of fingers?
Yeah.
Now pull it tight. Oh, yeah, now she's in trouble.
Oh, wait, I know you. You're from that weird family, aren't you?
We're not weird.
We don't like wrestling.
How do you know if you've never been?
I've never had rectal bleeding before, but I'm pretty sure I'm not a fan of that.
How about I shove her head up your ass and then we can find out? Hello?
My name is Hutch Morgan. I'm calling from WWE. We'd like both of you to come try out for us.
It's all fake anyway, isn't it?
What? Sorry about that.
It's The Rock. We're huge fans.
Thank you so much.
What advice would you give us? We want to be the next you.
What are your names again?
My name.
It doesn't matter what your names are. You walk around here interrupting The Rock, you like you haven't seen the sun in 20 years. You like you just stepped out of Oliver Twist. Please, sir, may I have some more advice, sir? You want some advice? Here's The Rock's advice. Shut your mouth.
Looks good.
Thanks, Dwayne.
Got it. Good morning, wrestling nerds. Well, this is where we see whether or not you get to go on to WWE.
This is our shot, Zach.
Hello.
Why do you want to wrestle?
I'm the toughest bastard in any room. Probably shouldn't swear, not when there's ladies present. Sorry, miss. Sorry about that.
If I call your name, that means you'll be coming with me to Florida. Paige. Thank you all very much.
You have to take my brother. No one deserves this more than Zach.
I wish you the best, son, but this is the end of the line for you.
Do you know what it's like to want one thing in life, and then your own sister takes it away from you?
It was my dream too.
I have no idea who I'm supposed to be out there.
You're not just doing this for you. You're doing it for the family.
Everything rides on tonight, even if I got 3 strikes.
Paige, I myself have come from a wrestling family too. I know exactly what it means to you. But don't worry about being the next me. Be the first you.
What?
It's Dwayne Johnson. How are you?
Prove it.
If you smell what The Rock is cooking.
Yeah, and I'm Vin Diesel, mate.
I'm sorry.
That was awesome.
Yeah, so I saw this movie about a month ago.
What?
Yeah, early press screening, man.
Privileged.
We get some of those from time to time.
Going over to your house on Friday night.
We'll be watching UFC 235, I think. I'll be in Vegas for ToyCon that week, but
Jealous.
we'll make a trip out of it.
I'll be at Sapphire if I go to Vegas.
You'll be broke if you go to Vegas.
Broke is what I already am.
But but this movie was really fun. We got
WWE did not like that.
what?
They just killed. They
Oh,
just
serious?
killed the show.
What?
That's all right. Because they cut it because we played that clip.
Oh, we played the full trailer. That's why. Oh wow.
I gotta take a piss so bad, and I gotta get ready for gym practice. That sucks.
So the show's over.
Yeah, show's over.
So wait, the show's completely dead.
Completely dead.
Oh man.
Because we played the trailer.
Yeah. Okay. So.
That's